Hey there. When I agreed to interview Kathleen Kennedy, I had no idea she was going to drop such bombshells of knowledge. She was fired from her dream job and it didn't stop her. She built a six-figure business in a short period of time, got her first client in 2 months. Listen to the podcast and you'll see how you can bounce back from being fired. She gave us some amazing insight into public speaking. Public speaking can be a game changer. If you can get over the fear of speaking publicly, you can make your business scale and grow dramatically. How did she do it? In the podcast, she talks about it. So you can take that for yourself, learn what you can do to become a public speaker, how to get engagements, and how to make your business scale and grow. Listen in, Kathleen Kennedy.
Hey everyone and welcome. We are Next Level Business Advisors and this is Business Stories of Success. If you want to break through and achieve your own business success by learning from other successful business owners, you're in the right channel. For more of our content, make sure you click subscribe and don't forget the bell icon so you're the first to be notified when new videos are added. Enjoy today's video.
Hello, hello, hello. Today I'm Mark. I'm joined by Miss Kathleen Kennedy. How you doing?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
Awesome, awesome. So I got a little all flustered because the first thing I said was, I want to make sure we have the company name right, Center for Communication and Engagement. And you said, yes, but.
I also said that no one ever remembers the name of my business, which is kind of funny because, you want people to remember your business name, right? When they're looking for you. So I am in the process of rebranding and expanding into my different core identities, like as far as all of our different service lines. And we're going to move to always or on the record, because you're always on the record. So it'll be on the record PR and communications for schools. And I tell that because I tell that to my clients when you're doing a media interview. You're always on the record. I had a superintendent for years who used to want to say to reporters, let's just go off the record. And I'd be like, no. Don't do that. Don't do that. And so you're always on the record and you're always held to what you're saying. And that's just true pretty much anyways nowadays, because we're in a 24/7 news cycle. People are recording with their own phones and becoming their own journalists. And so that's my new title. And I'm excited about it. Our business line, and it applies to everything.
I love it. I love it. So before we get all into our details, because I want to drag that on the record out a little bit more, I want to just let everyone know that, our new format is different. We talk about success always. That's what you're here for. But we always try to drop some gems for you. So today, Kathleen's going to give us some insight onto what happens after you're fired. Right? How do you make money? How do you keep money on the table if you're not going to another job? Because that's something you successfully did, right? You were fired from your dream job and then you started a business. Like, wow, how'd you do it? So we want to chat about that. But the other thing that I thought when we were talking before about was public speaking. It's a game changer. And so you're going to talk to us about how it helps change the game for you in business. And like I said afterwards, so I'm going to go on the record. I'm going to have to consult with you so you can teach me how to become a public speaker. So it's a lot that people can grab from it. Before we get into the life lessons, I just want to learn a little bit more about you and your business so that people can feel comfortable. Okay, we're going from Center for Communication to on the record. Exactly what is your business? What do you do?
It's super niche. And I serve public school districts and education organizations with communications and PR and marketing.
Wow. And you said that so succinctly. I like it. So, what's the role that you play in the business?
So good. So I started out 23 years ago in the business. And so I lend the credibility to the business because I've actually lived and breathed working for school districts, embedded in the district. So I've got the experience. And so I provide the oversight and the counsel, but I have a team of people that work for me. I hire consultants and I have a full-time staff person, bringing on another one. And so they are actually doing the writing and the work and I'm overseeing it, but I trust them. I'm seeking out those people who have the same passion level I do to serve schools.
Nice. So I want to just dig into that just a tad. How long have you been in business now? Your business
This is
itself.
my 8th school year. So we cycle in school years. It makes
Okay,
it a
so your
little
school
weird
year,
because people are normally on that January to December
December.
calendar, and I'm on a July 1 to a June 30 calendar. I follow the school calendar, and so my contracts all renew in the middle of a billing year for most people, right? So
Nice.
yeah, so we're entering into our 8th school year serving school districts and
Okay.
organizations. Yeah.
Good. And so after several years in the business, now you're expanding. It's nice because sometimes when we're talking about success in business, we think solopreneur, and I can't really, sometimes it's hard to grow that way. You have to start
Mhm.
to delegate, bring people on. And it sounds like that's where you're at, where you're doing this delegation. You probably did it all along with the contractors, but now I have staff members, right? So it allows you to do more as far as expansion. Is that correct?
Right. And it's a giant leap of faith. You know what you're good at, you know that you do it well. And then it's just the matter of taking that leap of faith, knowing
Mhm.
where you're comfortable and hiring the right person for the job. And it's not necessarily about their skill set, because a lot of that I can teach, but I cannot teach you passion. I can't teach you how to be perseverant in your job and moving. And a lot of times now we hire remote, right? And so
Right.
my people work remotely, and I want to make sure that they have the same drive and the energy level that I do, because I cannot teach that.
Okay. So then you hire not simply for skill set, but for, I would say, demeanor, personality.
Yeah, I'm looking for just certain things in their personality, yeah, certain qualities that just stand out that make them maybe going to be a more loyal employee and long term. Because of course we all want people that are going to be loyal and stay with you. I know
Right.
that's not going to be forever, but it sure helps when you're passionate about the same thing, because if you're not passionate about serving schools, then it's not going to work,
I
because that's
got you.
our
I got
niche, right? Like it's so
right.
niche that if you don't enjoy that, it's not going to work.
I love it. And they say, there's riches and niches. So it sounds like you found a nice niche. Before we get into some of these practical things that you're going to talk to us about, we're going to just talk about something that might make you touch your heartstrings a little bit. You
Okay.
were fired
Oh my
from your
gosh. Yeah.
dream job?
From my dream job. I thought I'd be
Oh,
retiring from there, right? Yeah. Um, I was a single mom to a 1.5-year-old, and I loved my job. I was the chief communications director for an urban school district, and I envisioned staying there. I loved it. I loved telling the stories of the school district and the kids that were in it and the teachers that were working there. It was there was something new all the time. Sometimes there was something new 7 or 8 times a day, but
wow.
yeah, it was just constantly going, and it was super fun. I loved it. And then my superintendent that I worked for, and that we were in an admin team, he retired, and I was crushed because I loved him, his service level, and the way he led. It was all about service. And so he left, and then we got an interim superintendent who didn't love him and didn't love the administrators that were underneath him. And because we're
Wow.
so closely identified with him, all of us got cut at the top. And
Ooh,
I was like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? I have a baby practically, and I'm on my own. And so I cried and pouted for a day, right? We
oh,
were in
okay.
shock and stuff. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, suck it up, buttercup. Let's go. We got to figure out what we're going to do. So I was applying for jobs, but then it like dawned on me, like, I would have the life sucked out of me if I had to work in a bank and do PR
Gotcha.
or marketing for a bank. Like that just doesn't fulfill me from the inside, right? Like that. And my dad was like, apply for everything, da 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 da. And I love my dad, and then I came up with this business idea there are about 500 or there at the time, there were probably around 560 school districts here. And there were about 20 that had a communications or PR team that worked in the school district. So that meant there's like 540 school districts who needed someone like me to help meet their needs and their communication needs. And so I was like, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm called to do this. It's an internal calling. And that's how I started. And so I just did whatever it took. I was like using my name and where I had volunteered in places before, and started calling people and telling them about my business and how I could help serve them. And that's how I launched. That is exactly how I started my business. And it was hard and it was scary at first, because
Yeah.
you're like, am I going to make a living to provide for my daughter and me
Right.
the same capacity that we were, in before? But I knew that the calling, like, it wasn't just like internally, but I just know what it can do for school districts, like having somebody there communicating about your stories and telling the human interest side of it rather than a building, right? Where sometimes you just see it as a building or figureheads. And
Nice.
so that was it for me. And that was going at it. And I started, and it was just like, oh yeah. And I loved it. I loved, because it was allowing me not only to just work with one district, but I was able to work with multiple districts and
Gotcha.
serving them. And I figured out, like, that was like the sweet spot for me, because I didn't have to have just one boss per se. I had
Right.
all these different clients, and it was really cool because I still got to do what I enjoyed.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to go from having a boss to having clients too, right? Because now it's more you're looking at each other eye to eye as opposed to looking up in a way, right?
Sure.
They need you as much as you need them, and you can let them go if they don't work out with. It's just a different dynamic when you have your own. I
Oh
like
yeah.
one thing that you mentioned, which helped you to start your own business. You've heard of SWOT analysis, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Strength,
yeah.
weaknesses,
Yep.
opportunity, and threat. And
Hmm.
you saw an opportunity. So when
Hmm.
we're starting businesses for the first time, little nugget, right? Look for those opportunities.
Yep.
The opportunity is there. My goodness. So let me ask you this crazy question. You said I saw the opportunity. I started calling. How long before it took you to land your first client?
Mhm. We opened the door in May. And I say I started with a partner, but she was embedded in a school district full time. So she didn't really work with me. It was more like me doing all of it. And then, and she gave some help with some of the writing and stuff at the beginning, but that didn't work out. So we ended up leaving, and I kept going on my own, but I was the one hitting the pavement, and I had a client pretty quickly lined up right after that. Because of the
Nice.
cycle. So I started in May, and then they're starting to look at contracts in June and July, May, June, and July. So
Wow.
right in those months before they start their new school years. And so I had volunteered for a school district who had a massive tornado. It ended up killing 7 children during the school day, and
Mhm.
they did not have a communications person on board and team. And I volunteered there for 2 weeks. And so I called on him first. He had just
Nice.
appointed the school superintendent, and I was like, you need help. He's like, I do. And so I went in and worked with him for a couple of years, and now he has someone back on board full time, which is perfect. And she does an amazing job. But yeah, so it wasn't a couple months, maybe 3 months, but I was doing contracts on an as needed basis. So I was like an insurance policy at first.
Okay. Can you
So
explain that a little bit? Because
yeah,
one of the questions, like, okay, how long it takes you to land that first client is nice, but typically your first one is not going to replace your prior salary. So
no.
then, so then, like, how do you keep? And this is like the practical lesson that I want people to grab, right? How do you keep moving forward, money on the table, continuing to
Yeah.
survive as you build a business? If you started from nothing, like you left a job, what did
Yeah.
you do?
So my first contracts were kind of membership based, which means you can pay me a set amount of money for an entire billing year. So from June or July 1 to June 30. So for one fee, they could use me at an hourly rate that's reduced from if you were not a member. So, but that to me is okay, great. you have a membership and you're now getting this hourly rate, but I don't know how many hours to budget in my, and I don't know who's going to use me. And so for them, it's an insurance policy. For me, it was like a game of, oh, I don't know how much money I'm going to have every month. So I got, it was kind of like the hamster wheel, and you got to keep going and keep going. And it was a great start. Let me just put it that way. Like, it got me in the door and it got me moving. But then I was like, ooh, I need to move to a retainer. I need to move some of my clients into a full-time contract where they're paying monthly, and we're giving them a set number of hours per month and services per month in that contract. So I could offer both contracts, but this is my bread and butter over here. And that took a couple years to get evolved into. So when I was starting out, I was not making the salary I was at first. And I have to say too, in that first couple of years, I was also looking at other jobs, and I wasn't fully committed to like going all in, because I'm like worried I'm never going to do this. But then I was like, if you do not focus on this, you'll never be all in. So I stopped looking at the outside interest and just kept going and moving forward. And it's that piece for me is, it's starting to have one client who refers you to other clients. And then once you have one win, and I say win, one of the services that I provide is helping school districts pass their bond referendums or their tax levies, or to build new buildings, to bring technology into the district, or buy buses. That there's a lot of times you have to have that capacity, and it has to come from the voters. And so I would run campaigns, and that became another one of the things that I became known for, is helping school districts win those big. And to date, I've passed $1 billion worth of those. So I have a little history. Cool. I have a little history. Cool. Yeah. So that's a big service, and those are higher ticket items for me too. So that helped sustain me along the way.
Nice. So I want to get a couple of things out of that. You were flexible in the beginning. You didn't make the money you made originally, but you managed to sort of just continue to build your business financially.
Yeah, to be honest, I did what it took. Like I went on food stamps to help provide for me and my daughter at the very beginning. Yeah, I was like, I'm not too proud to be in this spot. I'm going to do what it takes. I'm not going to lose my home. I'm not going to lose my car or my insurance, but I'm going to take support where I can get it, because that's what it's for. And so I did what it took, and then I put in the time and the effort to make it work. And by the way, my dad, who was championing me getting a full-time job outside, then became my biggest cheerleader, because he saw that potential of that, like who I'm targeting, who I'm going after,
and opportunity.
Right. Like it was just, So, and at the time, 8 years ago, there were very few people that did what I did. I've done some research since to kind of look at the competition, as you say, a SWOT analysis or whatever. After COVID, there's been like this massive shift to leave school districts and start in that consulting role, because you are working from sunup to sundown. I remember actually being in the urban school district, missing my daughter's first birthday. Not that she'll remember, but to me, that's a hole in your heart where you're like, I shouldn't have done that. Like that, just like you, as a consultant, you can choose, right?
You have that flexibility.
Yeah. And that other role, I felt like my life was endeared to run. I should have said at that time. And it's with growth, you learn things. I should have said, I'm not working tonight. Call the assistant and she'll help you.
Yeah. Owning your own business often allows you to see the power that you have when you're providing something that people need to. So I like that. We're going to talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about the second part of this expert interview, public speaking. And I think this is powerful. When we were chatting before, you said public speaking was a game changer for you. So let me ask you, how did public speaking help you to grow and scale your business and make money?
So I think this is interesting, because when you send out an email to a list of 100 people and nobody's heard of you, majority of the time we were like, delete. I mean, I do bulk deletes. Like I scroll and I'm like, delete, right? Like I don't even open them. And I know that is happening when I send out unsolicited emails, right? Like you are not
Right.
requesting me. I'm like wanting to be in your graces. It has to really catch my attention for me to open and learning what catches people is you're trying to guess what their needs are.
Right.
Right. So rather than guessing, I'm putting myself out there in their space. So when I first started out, I would take speaking gigs in front of my clients, which are superintendents, administrators of school districts. And if they would ask me to come speak to like at a regional meeting, I would go, yep, I'm there. And then that introduces me to like 15 or 20 superintendents in that one little small area. Right.
Okay.
And then they have now heard about my services. They also, because I embed stories in there, like, you're talking about the experience that you bring to the table, right? So I'm telling stories along with telling how I do my job and how it could benefit you. And so because I know what the needs are. And so then I'm going through it and walking them through and they're like, oh, and then I generally have 2 or 3 people who call on me, or I take their list and I'm like, hey, I met you at the presentation. I just wanted to follow up and see what are your communication challenges? What's your vision for communicating in your school district? And so I generate business that way. And so
Nice.
then I'm also looking for those opportunities too. And I'll say to someone, hey, I saw that you're over putting meetings together for this group of educators. I did some presentations with this group. Maybe some of those people. I might name drop a few or whatever, and I'll put my name out there that way and collect. And so those are great ways. And then I also speak to college level master's and doctoral programs, because they are in the specific classes that I'm going to present to. They are moving up into administrator roles within education. And so they're my target audience. Those people I want to
Nice.
get a hold of right now. And they're like, whoa, we didn't even know you existed. And so
Right.
those are also like feeding
You're
into,
sowing the seeds for the future.
sowing the seeds. That's right. And so I love it. I love public speaking. I love getting out in front of audiences, but let me just tell you, if you rest on your laurels and you're happy with the clients that you have and you forget to go back to that bread and butter, you drop. There is a place where clients cycle out, like it's like a life cycle. You're not always going to keep everybody the same amount of time.
Right.
And
Of
so
course.
for me, I had one of those bread and butter clients that was like, oh, we dropped the policy. It was an education organization and I served in a certain capacity for them, but they no longer carried the insurance rider that they were using me for. And they're like, well, we don't need you anymore. And I was like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Gut punch, right? Gut punch.
It was. But so focus time I've set on my calendar, and I know have you ever read the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller with Keller Williams?
No, I did not. And I know who Keller Williams is, which is amazing,
Okay.
but I never read his book. I think I've heard of it once before. I might have to pick
You're
that
gonna
up.
have to check it out. And I like, it's, even though it's real estate, whatever embedded, but the mission of the book is focusing your time on the one thing that's going to yield the greatest result for you, right?
You know
Like
what? That's powerful.
it's the domino that tips everything over and makes everything run. And for me, that's getting in front of those audiences and speaking, because that's how I connect. Like that's where I know I make the most impact. And then
Right.
right now it's going to fuel my PR and communication firm. It will hopefully give me some people that want to speak on my podcast that's all about school communications. And then it's my masterclass leadership series for educators, because I am really trying to give them free content and help them build themselves like in their leadership capacity. And then I'm
Nice.
also coaching those future educators that want to be leaders of their school districts one day. So it's
Very
all
cool.
working in this.
Together, like a
Yeah,
wheat,
it's so
like a
cool.
web.
Yep.
So I want to dig into this public speaking, because I mean, what I'm hearing and what I've believed, and you can tell me if I'm on point or not. The value of public speaking is, one, you establish yourself as a credible expert if you do it right, I guess. And
Yes.
two, it's a one-to-many relationship. I'm not speaking to one prospect at a time. have the opportunity to speak to multiple prospects at a time. And that's why it can be a game changer. Is that why it was a game changer for you?
Yes. And it is, I think the biggest thing for me is that no one's heard about me unless like people aren't doing a Google search for, is there someone who can help me pass my bond issue and those school crisis communications? And
Not going to
like,
happen.
it's super niche. Yeah. And even if I put out, like, wasting money would be to put Google ads out, like, right. Like,
Correct.
not what they're searching for. So
Nobody
for
knows about
me,
that. Right.
yeah, like for me,
So
those are
then,
not
so,
solutions.
so then here's my question for you, because you just said no one knows about me. That at least that was in the past,
At
right?
least that
Nobody
was
knows about me.
fast. Yeah.
So then how were you able to snag the speaking engagements? Was
Mhm.
it how did you do it? What were the steps that you took? I mean, you can't call
Okay.
somebody and say, high school district, I can talk. Like,
Yeah.
what was it? What did you do?
Yeah. So I leveraged those initial contacts that I'd made and my position of where I started in the industry, right? And
Hmm.
so I have the history of crisis communications expert leading school districts through those crisis communication pieces. And so the superintendents that I did know, I would say, hey, I'm doing work for Dr. Moore or Dr. Romines. And let me tell you, like, we're serving them. And he suggested to me, because usually I ask clients where I might be able to help them out. Like, who else could I help out? And do you have any ideas where I could speak? So I'd ask my existing clients for some ideas. And then there's some education organizations that exist that are specifically with my target, right? Like, they're all the administrators for school districts, and they go to certain meetings once a month. They go to certain meetings once a year, and they might go to national conferences as well. And so these are places where I'm either submitting a proposal to speak, because
Okay.
a lot of times there's an opportunity to do that. Sometimes in that capacity, you have to pay to play. Um,
Understood. Good to know.
but I'm really looking for those smaller niche ones, because those are for me where it is like a more personal presentation and you have more chance to interact one-on-one with people. And I love those. I love that. Like, let's use a real life scenario. How would you handle XYZ as an expert? Like, you can do that for your business. And then you give them 3 tips and you get out, because 3 is the magic number when you're doing something.
All right, nice to know. Nice to know. And you mentioned, and now I'm going to jump a little bit. So you have this, I guess you have like not a prepared, but like you know what your topic is when you're approaching people. Hey, I speak about X
Yep.
XXX, and that's what I'd like to do for you in your school district or what
Mhm.
have you. But you mentioned to me, and you alluded to it already. You don't just like do this one day every 7 months and say, hey, let me see if I can get
Oh
any
yeah.
speaking engagement, right? You talked about focus time. Can you share
Uh-huh.
that with our
Yeah.
audience?
So
If you
when
want to
you
be a
go
public
back,
speaker, what do you
yeah,
have to
if
do?
you go back to Gary Keller's one thing, like, so that one thing for me is what drives everything, right? So that I know that that's what's going to give me the most business. So I am spending my focus time. Another leader that I've worked with is Shanda Sumter, and she owns the company where I did my leadership transformation. And she talks about focus time on your calendar and setting yourself up for success and spending that time dedicated every day, 5 days a week. Don't miss, don't let anyone interrupt that time. And I married that with Gary Keller's one thing. What's going to bring me the most? So all I do for 1 hour every day is focus on, where am I going to speak? Who can I serve? Where am I going to go in this time period? And I'm researching, and I'm emailing, and I'm calling, and I'm reaching out, and I'm talking, and I'm also scheduling like lunches with people that I have in contacts. And so I can go in and go, hey, can I get some more contacts from you on where I could go and speak?
Nice.
Yep.
I love it. So I want to encapsulate this just so we can make sure, because this is like the game changing stuff, right?
Yeah.
Public speaking is game changing.
Mhm.
We agree. One to many relationships, you establish yourself as the credibility expert. But in order for you to get to that public speaking, there's some things that you're going to recommend. One is focused attention.
Yep.
Am I
Focus
getting it
time.
right?
Focus time
Do
on
I have to
your
create my do I have to create my content first before I go out and try to get speaking engagements?
well, no, you just need to know what you're best at, right? Like, where are you best at serving? I think, to me, asking yourself, what's going to drive your bread and butter? Like, what are you known for that everyone knows about you in the industry, or they're going to refer clients based on that? And
Nice.
then follow
Mhm.
that. And then, like, that's what you lead with. Hey, I that's, for me, it was like, how can I serve the superintendents in your region with a presentation over crisis communication? It's going to be bond issues for me, right? Like, because I've got $1 billion to date. And then the other part of it is owning your story, like, authentically, and telling you, weaving in that human interest story in there. So, because public schools are pretty divisive right now, and they can be in different communities. And so, for owning your narrative and taking that back and not letting other people tell your story is huge. I think that's true in any brand. Like, you need to make sure you own your narrative and you own it, like, 100%.
I love it. Cool. I think that's some really good things for folks to chew on. And if you're trying to scale your business or grow your business, if you can get over the fear, some people are fearful of public speaking, it can change the whole game. I like that. I like it a lot.
And you know what so this is I coach school district administrators on media interviews and talking about who you're going to talk to. And so a lot of them are, like, fearful of going to the mic. Now, when I do the coaching, we're really aggressive with questions and, like, firing them off and making sure they're really hard questions. But that's to set you up for one of those, like, massive interviews where something big and major has gone on. But in
Gotcha.
general, if you're doing an interview or if you're speaking, you concentrate on one person, your core audience. So in my educator world, you're talking to one parent who's watching TV, or you're talking to one
Mm,
person, and you personalize that interview to that person.
that's nice.
And you're not then talking to this ginormous audience who's scaring the pants off of you, right? Like,
Gotcha. I
yeah,
like it.
you
Very
got to
smart.
focus on that one person that you're having a conversation with, and it makes it so much better.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay, we're now going to pivot. Are you ready? The
Okay.
title of our discussion is Business Stories to Success. And so I want to start asking you about success. But before we do, I want to just take one brief break.
Okay.
Do you know what it takes to be successful as a business owner? There are 5 keys that every business owner has to master in order to be successful. How do I know these keys? Well, I used to say that I made them up, but really, I've learned these 5 keys in 2 ways. My name is Marc Adams. I'm the owner of Next Level Business Advisors and the host of the podcast, Business Stories of Success. In the podcast, we discuss success with business owners from around the world. We talk about what it means to them, how they achieve it, and the single biggest quality or personality trait that's needed in order to be successful. As a profitability and growth business advisor, I work with business owners around the country to help them increase profit and or accelerate growth. Now, I say or because some business owners aren't properly positioned to accelerate growth. In those cases, we actually focus on honing in on profitability. If you are a business owner and you're excited about improving your profit or accelerating your growth, feel free to download my free ebook, Mastering the 5 Keys to Make Your Business Successful. It's found at my website, nlbusinessadvisors.com/5 keys. That's the number 5 keys. You can also subscribe to my podcast, Business Stories of Success. And if you're really ready to start accelerating your growth, feel free to schedule your free discovery call. We'll talk about where you are today, what your goals are, your challenges, your obstacles, and I can help you to hurdle some of the hurdles to your own business success. Join me at Next Level Business Advisors and schedule your appointment today. Okay, we're back. So here's the question. How do you define success?
So good. I think success is what you define it as individually. And for me, it just means that I'm serving my clients and I am making an impact and making a difference for them. I don't care what the money looks like at the end of the day. I don't care what kind of house I live in, what kind of car I drive. That's not how I personally measure success. Sure, I have a 6-figure business, right? That's awesome. And I have goals to produce even higher. But for me, my success measure is if I'm serving my client and achieving their communication vision and telling their stories and helping their school district come to light. And I just like that for me is success.
And I can feel that. I think you talked about it earlier. You know, you could have worked at a lot of different jobs, but simply it wasn't fulfilling. So it's something there that fulfills you. I get it. So do you consider yourself successful?
I do. Yeah, I'm so grateful every day to be a success and to be able to share what I do with other people. I love it. I love what I do. As a matter of fact, I had 2 job offers in the last couple of months. One was for a CEO of Make-A-Wish in Oklahoma, and
Wow.
the other one was another large organization, and I turned them both down.
Wow.
Matter of fact, the CEO position for the Make-A-Wish reached out again. And I was like, I appreciate you so much, but I am 100% set where I'm at.
Nice.
There's just the level of internal satisfaction that I have from what I do. It's completely fulfilling me. And that for me is success.
That's beautiful. So whenever I ask that question, sometimes people say in the interviews, "Oh, I'm not successful," but most of them say, "Yeah, I feel successful." My question that follows is, how did you make it? How do you make it possible to become successful? What have you done to
Mhm,
remain successful?
mhm. So, you ever in interviews when you're asked at job interviews, kind of like what your 3 best traits are and your 3 worst or whatever?
Right. Right.
And so one of mine that falls into both categories is perseverance. Sometimes perseverance is a good thing, and sometimes it's like, oh my God, can she stop? Because if I'm on it, like I'm on it, like that's what I'm on. Like perseverance for me is a driver. And when I think when you're so connected to your mission and you feel so aligned with it, that's what keeps you motivated. That's what keeps you going, and you don't let go. And I have that. Like public education to me and education in general, it's a game changer for most every human being that walks the planet, right? Like
Hmm. Hmm.
everyone, no matter where they live, is seeking education in some form or fashion. And
Right.
but for me, like providing the very best quality public education is something I feel so passionate about. I want every child to be successful. Like we all win, right? Like there's place for every one of us to win in this world, and we can lift each other up. But public education does that. Like, it's a gift, and I feel like it's my job to help share those stories so that everyone can win.
Your passion is like just jumping through the screen and the speakers. That's nice. That's nice.
Thanks.
I'm gonna bring you down. I'm gonna make you sad. I'm gonna
Okay.
ask you this question because
Okay.
you're smiling too much. Can you give us one big mistake you made in your business journey?
Yep. hmm Um, one of the biggest mistakes that you can make is to not follow through and follow up and ask questions, right? Like, so
Okay.
if you're working with a client and you've said you're going to promise X, Y, and Z, and you're
Mm,
delivering on your promise and they're not responsive, it's time to stop and ask questions. You're still giving information, but if you don't stop and ask questions along the way, am I helping you? Am I meeting your needs? Where can we adjust? Where can we move and shift so that I am meeting your needs? Then you will fail that one particular client. And that
wow.
I did. Like I did not do that for a couple clients, and it's made some differences. Like I get to go forward in a different direction where I am constantly evaluating and looking, am I helping them? Am I doing what I said I was going to do? Am I being in integrity? Am I living in integrity with my word? And is my team doing that? Are we meeting their needs?
Wow. I like that. Oh, very nice. And so what do you do to avoid making that mistake over and over again? I think you might have touched on it, but if you can just crystallize it for us, how do you avoid
I,
making that mistake?
it's like if you some people call it like a 360 evaluation, right? But it's asking your client, am I meeting your needs? Looking at each piece of what they expected, and are we delivering it? And how can we shift? And what's changing along the way. Because sometimes what you agree on isn't really what they wanted. And so you might have to ask deeper questions to get to that. What were their expectations that they didn't quite adequately express at the very beginning? And so you might have to dive deeper to get into those service points where they are like, ooh, our expectations were up here and you're at about here. And
All
so
right.
it's going in and asking the right questions and making sure that you're like, this isn't about me. And that's the other thing, is like, it shouldn't be personal. It should be about the service you're providing, and what are you giving to somebody else? And am I meeting your needs?
Nice, nice. I like the way you put that. It's clear that you're just born to serve. In a good way. And that's really just, that's what I'm getting from you, because everything that you're saying, even when you ask your client, it's not about you and just getting the contract. It's like making sure that they've
Right.
engaged you and you can serve them to the best of your ability. So that's a beautiful quality. Do you think that no, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to ask you this. What's the single most important quality you think is required to be successful?
Well, I think I've said it before, but I think the single most important quality is it's really your mindset. I think that you have to be in a place where you are committed to serving people, and you're going to do what it takes to make it happen.
I
It's a
like it.
commitment, but it's also a mindset. And I think you have to get your mind in the right space, and you can't let other things get in there. Competition is okay because we all are going to win. Like, there's enough space on this planet for everybody to win. But what we really need to do is make sure that we don't let all that negativity seep in. Just keep focusing on what you're good at, focusing on servicing and delivering your items that you promised to your client, and stop letting that negativity get in. So for me, it's really a mindset lifestyle. And not only do I live it in my work life, but I live it in my personal life too.
Nice. Very
They're
cool.
in sync with each other. Yeah, sync.
And I always say, when we start our businesses, no matter which way we start it really has to tie into our personal life, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we have a vision for what we want in life. The business should help facilitate that. So they should be in harmony, right?
Right.
The qualities we display should be synchronous in both. So I like that. Let me ask you this question. I don't know if I asked it to you. I think you mentioned it. Have you ever worked with coaches or mentors? Have they been successful in helping you, or do they help you to
Oh,
get?
yeah, absolutely. I've had several coaches that have helped me and pointed me in the right direction. And I went through the transformational leadership program, and we had coaches in there, and oh, they were game changers for me. And I'm still in small groups, mastermind groups that because the saying about you're as smart as the group of people you're with, right? Like, in that,
Right.
and you don't ever want to be the smartest. You want to, right? Like, you want to
Don't be
surround
the
yourself
smartest in
with
the room.
really people that are brilliant, and learn from them. And so I'm constantly working on who's at my table, who's in my circle, and surrounding myself with people that challenge me to be the best version of myself. And I meet with my group every Wednesday, 8:30. I don't miss it. I hardly ever miss it unless I'm on vacation with my family. But even then, sometimes I try to hop on for a little bit.
Wow.
It's just a
Wow.
game changer when you surround yourself with people who have the mentality of winning, and not winning just at life and business, but like everything, like helping others win. And it changes your life.
Cool. I'm glad you mentioned that. And masterminds can be incredibly valuable. The smartest people in the world seem to be in some mastermind of one sort or another. So I guess you must be one of the smartest people in the world.
I don't know,
I'll take it.
I don't know about that.
Hey, you're doing pretty well. One final question, if it's okay. What advice would you give to a brand new business owner?
Brand new business owner is that just follow your heart. Like, what led you to start that company, and make sure that you always go back to that. Like, if it came from within in your heart, and you know that this is what you're called to do, follow it. and remember what that was. And so that you don't ever get that feeling of you don't matter, you don't belong, because it has to do with that mindset piece, right? Go back to the beginning and believe in yourself, and you can do it. You can make a difference. Set yourself up for success and set that focus time up, but go back to the beginning. Like, why did you start? Why are you there to serve? What are you doing to help other people and lift them up?
I like it. Hey, Miss Kathleen Kennedy, we want to thank you on the record.
Yes, on the record, soon to be on the record. Yeah.
All right. And we look forward to seeing your continued journey to success.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much for letting me share a little bit, learn a little bit, because I always learn too.
Well, this was a blast. Thanks again.